So long before I fell in love with Usborne books, I have been passionate about the subject of children's reading. I fell in love with this topic when I was in college and went on to get my master's in reading education and became certified as a reading specialist because I just love this topic of children learning to read. So if I sat down with you today and I asked you, is it important for a child to be read aloud to? Of course you would answer yes. But what if I said why? Why is that important? How would you answer? Maybe you'd talk about how a child who's been read to will love reading more themselves. Maybe you would think about the emotional security that comes for a child when they sit down with someone that they love and spend that time reading together. Well, yes, those are both important reasons to read to your child. But today, I want to talk to you as a reading teacher, and I want to try to explain to you what happens when a child is read aloud to and why that sets them up for such success at their future reading. Now, when a reading teacher thinks about reading instruction, there are 5 areas they think about. They think about decoding, fluency, phonemic awareness, vocabulary, and comprehension. And a successful reader needs to have all 5 pieces of that puzzle. Now here's the great thing. When you read aloud to your child at any age, from any level of book, you are helping them in all 5 of those areas. Now I'd love to tell you about all 5 areas, but you probably don't want to listen to me talk about reading all night. So I'm just going to hit on 3 of them, but just trust me, when you read to your child, you're really helping in all 5 areas. Let's talk first about decoding. Now decoding is taking the actual code, the letters on the page, and figuring out what sounds they make. It's phonics, basically. So how does reading to your child help them with decoding? Well, if they're a young child, they're pre-readers, then what you're doing is you are helping to make a connection in their minds between the words on the page and specific sounds. You're showing them that these specific words make these specific sounds. And that's a really important connection for them to make. And they start to understand that these letters and words make these sounds no matter when we read the book, no matter who reads the book. These symbols always make these sounds. Such an important connection for them to make, even if you're not directly saying that to them. What about with an older student? They might already have some phonics instruction, so are you still helping them with their decoding when you read aloud to them? Absolutely, because you're probably reading to them from something that's a little harder, something that might have some words that you aren't familiar with, and you have to sound them out. You know, those strange names that you come to or places, and you have to figure out what they are. Well, it is so inspiring for a reader to hear an adult have to decode a word, to have to sound it out. And it gives them courage when they come to words that they don't know, that they can just plow through them because they have had modeled for them how to decode a word. So at any age or book level, you are helping your child with their decoding skills. Let's talk about vocabulary next. This is a big one. Now, it's a proven fact that students with bigger vocabularies are better readers. And this just makes sense. It is easier to read a word if you know what it means. And you've experienced this in your own life. Think about a word that you know it, you use it, you're familiar with it, but you don't see it in print very often. And then suddenly you come across it one day, and for a second you think, oh, I don't know this word. But then you go to read it, and it clicks. And because you know the word, you're able to read it with ease. Well, the exact same thing happens for our students and our children. So how do we grow big vocabularies in our children? We read to them. You know, most words we learn indirectly. Sure, there are some words that you sit down with your child and you say, this word means this. But most of the words that we know, we've learned them just because we've heard them. We heard someone say them, we heard them in a book, and now we're more familiar with what the word means. So when you read to your child, and you're reading to them from something that they couldn't read on their own, you are exposing them to new words. And they are starting to understand what those words mean, And then when they go to read them in the future, when they are at that reading level, it's going to be a lot easier for them. Let's talk now about comprehension. You know, we read to understand, and it's all well and good to be able to say the right sounds at the right time, but we have to understand what we're reading for it to be successful reading. That's comprehension. And when you read to your child, you are forcing them to think about and concentrate on a story for a particular length of time. And of course, that length of time is going to grow as your child grows. So it starts as just baby steps, but you're really teaching them to focus and comprehend a story more and more as they get older. Now here's the really fun part. You know those things that you say during a story? They're not written on the page, but you just kind of say them as you're reading. Things like, oh, I wonder what's going to happen next, or, oh, that surprised me. Or when you stop and kind of rehash what had happened on that page. All of those things are important ways that we comprehend a text, and you are modeling them for your child without even realizing that you're doing it. You know, a child learns to interact with a text by hearing how other adults interact with a text. And if your child or student is never read to, then they don't know how to do those little strategies that just help us understand while we're reading. So it's a great way to build your students' comprehension simply by reading to them. So there you go. You thought you were just sitting down to read a book with your child, but look at all that you're accomplishing. You are growing their decoding skills and their vocabulary and helping them with their comprehension. And you're impacting their fluency and phonemic awareness too. All of that you're doing just by reading to them. Look at all that you're getting done. You know, in the grand scheme of things, it is not really that crucial that you buy an Usborne book tonight. Usborne books won't make your child readers. You will make your child a reader by taking the time tonight and tomorrow and the day after that to read with and to your children. That is what is really crucial for you to remember tonight.